Yeah, yeah. Making her way to the mic. They start dimming the lights. You start feeling alright. From Birmingham, home of the Teddy Longs and the Ruben Studders. More once you discover. For all of the lovers, Whitney Houston and Roman Reigns. For all of the lovers, and Mickey James and Marvin Gaye. For all of the lovers, and Sasha Banks, Janelle Monáe, Silk, Sonic, and Paige. Allow me to say, look, I just found a place, sweet escape for every one of us. I was kinda late, cause I just made it off the struggle bus. Walking by the fate, cause I know it's right in front of us. Yo, I ain't with the hate, gotta focus on what's great. Ladies and gentlemen, Steph Hardy is on the air. Had to
Welcome to Steph and Kat Talk Wow, brought to you by the Hardy Wrestling Podcast and In Kat We Trust. I'm your girl, Stephanie Hardy. And of course, I'm here with Katrina, my main tag team partner of In Kat We Trust. But we're not alone. We are here with a very special guest. She is one half of Animal Instinct with Katarina Jinx. And she is one of the most amazing WoW superheroes we've seen since last season. She is the gold standard. She is Goldie Collins. How are you, Goldie?
Hi there. I'm good. I'm wonderful. It's great for me to be here today.
Yes, and it is great for us to have you on. We are such big fans. So we are going to start by asking you, when did you fall in love with wrestling?
I think I really fell in love with wrestling when it became a reality for me. I think I'd always really liked it and been intrigued by it. And when I watched it, I enjoyed it and I would consider myself a fan. But until I walked through the doors and kind of stepped into the ring for the first time, I didn't I didn't know what it was. And then I went in there and it was like, oh, I love this. I have the bug. And so that's the moment I fell in love, I think, when I first stepped in the ring and said, oh, this is it.
I love that. So my question for you is, I think one of the things me and Steph appreciate about WoW is just the vast amount of women with different personalities, different gimmicks. And so for you, what was like the deciding factor to join the locker room as awesome as well?
Yeah, it felt like a no-brainer. I've always been very pro uplifting and empowering women. Creating spaces to amplify their voices and their talents and their gifts is very important to me. So, WoW was a no-brainer when I was able to sort of go through the tryout process and speak with David and speak with the trainers and kind of get a feel for what WoW really stood for. It was very clear that it was the wrestling home for me. And yeah.
That sounds really awesome. I'm glad that you are able to make a wrestling home out of WoW, which is essentially an institution for women's wrestling at this stage. And now it's being exposed to an even broader audience now. So it's amazing that you found a home there. So, what would you say your transition was like going from being a professional dog training champion to being a wrestler on television? What are those differences like, and how do you apply your knowledge as a trainer to the wrestling ring?
Yes, getting in the wrestling ring is not so different than training a dog. I think that sort of looking up your opponent and understanding their unique needs, similar to different dog breeds, is important in kind of understanding who you're going up against. Doing that research and being able to say, okay, here's how I might best approach this competition. So that's something that I think I had that keen eye of like doing my homework and knowing and saying, oh, not all dogs train the same. Not all wrestlers are going to wrestle the same. So taking that into account and letting it kind of guide me has been very helpful. But I think the showmanship quality of dog showing and wrestling is very similar. You're there, you're taking center stage, and you're kind of commanding the space. So I felt very comfortable doing that, seeing as I've done it before, just in on a different stage, if you will.
I love that answer. Just in reference to the amount of dogs I've been around. Um, of how like
Mhm.
some of them are very different of how like even their personalities are, and the breed kind of determines that as well. So I think that's a really good analogy you gave. So one of the things I have noticed, at least while I did have stuff to say about your debut, just because I don't usually just because I usually don't do well with heels in certain extents. But one of the things I have said, of especially in the last few months, is how I think you have grown so much from the first time we've seen you to you now, even by yourself, but also with Katarina. And so, can you tell us, like, what are some things, I guess, from going solo, making a debut as a solo, superhero, and then having to team up with somebody who's very different in ways? Like, you guys are similar as far as certain aspects, but also very different in how you complement each other. That I think it actually animal instinct works. So can you tell me some differences as far as you learned working solo, but working with somebody like Katarina?
Absolutely. Working solo, there's so much to learn straight out the gate, and you really don't learn it all until well after your first match. And so stepping into the ring for my very first debut match, I mean, I was prepared and ready and excited, but there's still so much that I needed to know and learn. And I took that first, bit of time to really get my footing and kind of get comfortable in the ring and figuring out how to size up my opponents and, prepare, like I mentioned. But then once I got comfortable there, I said, okay, there is so much to learn. How can I do this more effectively? And so I was training a lot locally, and Katarina was there, and we hit it off and we work well, training each other because we have similarities, but our movement styles are quite different in a lot of ways. So we benefit from training with one another because we're getting the opposite of what we do. So we really, the opposite attracts thing is wonderful there to have that in a training partner, but then to be able to switch that and say, okay, how are we working together to take down another team? And that is something where we have been able to take sort of her agility and that elusiveness that she has, as well as some of my strength and, just bold splashy attitude. And we've mixed it together and created this faction that I think is a match made in heaven, really. So training tag is a whole other ball game. I mean, I feel like I just got my footing in how to wrestle in singles, and then I said, okay, let's step up to the challenge and learn tag. So I have loved having Kitty as my partner. She's divine.
Yeah, absolutely. Your chemistry is definitely on display and has been over these past few episodes from last season and this season. And starting in this season, the both of you seem to have started a bit of a rivalry with the Fierce Sisters, another new tag team in the form of Foxy Fierce and Roxy Fierce. So, since you guys have faced off before, and you came out victorious, what lesson do you hope to teach them in the next time you guys face each other?
The Fierce sisters are very cute. I think that they have that like wonderful sister camaraderie thing going on. The audience loves them. They have crazy fans. And I think they're wonderful in that regard. But they step into the ring and it's a bit confusing. It feels like they're just not quite lining up together and they're missing some connection at that point that Kitty and I just we have on lock. We are always connected. We have that animal instinct. And so in this last match, it was just we were able to sort of use that connection and bond that we have to step away and step apart and take that win. I think moving into this next match we're going to really solidify that it's not just blood that makes you a really strong and formidable tag team, but there can be other aspects inside that sort of connect us and make us special and strong in our own way.
Oh, I love that. Yes, we are also fans of the Fierce Sisters. And that
Mhm.
is something I think WoW had a lot of siblings, or rather sisters, in WoW. There's been quite a few relatives, and we've said, me and Stephanie have said before, as far as there's sometimes a different level of maybe connection
Mhm.
with somebody who's blood related. But then on the other side is somebody who's had like have a twin brother is like sometimes you might not get along all the time, or you might not it might
Mhm.
not just work as much as you want it to. It might be semi, I don't want to say sibling rivalry, but semi, well, maybe we do it this way, but we might not agree, and that might not be the right time. And so I
Mm-hmm.
do like that analogy in regards to sometimes you can kind of step outside of the sibling thing because you're looking at it in a different set of eyes than you might if this is like your sister and whatnot. So has
Absolutely.
there been any advice that I guess you have been given from anybody, but even for each other, that you use going into your matches at well?
Mm. Um, yes, I think early on, kind of in my training, I was told, to just kind of like you're allowed to ground yourself, you're allowed to be present, and you need to be so that you can like do this fight and you can slow down and you can just like live in that moment. And so every time I step into the ring, I'm really trying to be as present and you're fighting. It's so visceral and real. And I think being able to step out there and take in the fact that people are screaming your names and there's cameras and you're in a costume and your face is fully done, being able to like pull away from that and say, okay, how am I really going to show up and fight my best fight right now? You kind of have to slow down and like get that heart rate under control, breathe. So slowing down right then and taking focus has probably been the thing I was told the most, just in general. I think from a lot of the girls, I think we all talk about that moment before where it's like, okay, get serious, step into your zone and get ready to fight because it's that time. Um, so yeah, that's I think my biggest like still thing I'm implementing.
That's pretty amazing. Considering there are some people like me who are very, anti-confrontational. So to hear, that there's a strategy behind that is really amazing. So the idea that you have that is just really great and that you were trained in that aspect. That's really cool. So my question for you is, we have seen a lot of tag teams sort of step up to the plate and a lot of trios teams step up to
Mm.
the plate this season as well. But since you started as a singles competitor, are you ever interested or do you ever think about being a singles star again and pursuing the Wild World Championship?
Absolutely. I am game and I am planning to take over the WoW division in general. The singles, the tag. If we have someone that decides to join us, we will take the trios. I'm trying to be Goldie 1, 2, and 3 belt. I have no end in sight for what I plan to do within this company. And I think that Katarina and I are stepping into that top contender space for tag teams, and I'm excited to do that. But my journey as a single star is not over. Do not think it is.
Oh, that's interesting because I've said Stephanie as well. I do think you guys are definitely contenders for the tag titles. But you mentioned trio. So is there somebody you wouldn't mind kind of joining Animal Instinct if you went the trio route?
I am open to any of our competitors, the women in the locker room, that are interested. Like I am willing to train even my toughest competitor. So if there's a woman out there that wants to step in and up to the plate, I'll take her. However, some of my top contenders, honestly, I was just speaking about her kind of recently, but maybe Jungle Girl comes back and joins us. Who knows? That could be fun.
That would be iconic. Oh my
That's what
gosh.
I'm
Considering,
saying.
yeah, she's a WoW OG. So the idea of her coming back and teaming with you guys with Animal Instinct would be really fantastic. If you watch any of the older episodes, I do recommend you guys look back at Jungle Girl. And of course, more recently, we saw her help the beast, in her rehabilitation, and getting back to WoW. So that would be really amazing to see her get back in the ring. We'd love that. So, Goldie. If there was any women's wrestler that you could face from any era, who would it be and why?
Hmm. Any women's wrestler from any era? I I joke about it often. And as we're speaking about, returns to the ring, I'm just gonna throw it out there. I would also love to wrestle Selena the Real Deal Majors. For real.
Ooh.
I'll take her. I mean, back in her heyday, I would have loved to have taken her on, but now, especially now, I'll still do it.
Yeah, that's a really great answer considering she's also a WoW OG too. Like, I
Mhm.
think that would be, a really stellar match, and the both of you would have some hard-hitting stuff going on. So that's really cool.
Yeah, I might need to just get some of my aggression out from training, but I don't know. I think it'd be a great match.
Oh, I love that. You got me. I'm like, oh, for two OGs names. I'm like, I emojis. Like, I'm listening. Is do you think there's a tag team currently that's your biggest competition on the road to possible tag team gold?
It's interesting you asked that. I, until very recently, would have said the only team that I thought could mess with our chances was the Mother Truckers. But as we all know, currently things are not looking good for those two. So I am seeing a very clear vision in sight to those tag team belts. So I'd say our biggest challenge right now is the Carlson twins. They are what's standing between us and what I want, which are those tag belts.
Yes, and in speaking of them, they always have the Fab Four coming out with them. When you're fighting the Carlson sisters, or if you're fighting Penelope Pink, and at this point, Holly Swag, you're never fighting alone. It's like it's always a numbers game that they like to play. So, would you and Katarina have like a strategy for how you would take those titles and actually even up the odds to have a fair match?
You make a great point because I do know that they tend to come as a package deal. And I think Katarina and I would use that to our advantage. There's many sayings about cats having 9 lives and always landing on their feet, and I do think that they can be quick and mysterious, and I think if we could get one more person on our side, maybe we'd be okay. But I'm aware of their trickery and tomfoolery, so that will be a part of the discussion with David when a match is set.
Right, I love that. Like, I love the confidence you've been giving. As far like I said, I think you've grown so much since we first saw you. And wow, my question is again, WoW has so many different women in the
Hmm.
locker room. That's something I actually do truly appreciate about WoW, of the different type of women we'll see on the show, backstage, what have you not. And so, is there any words you have to the locker room at WoW?
I always have words for the wow women of wrestling locker room because I consider myself a fount of knowledge, information. I am the gold standard. So I'll say this. I am your competition, but I am also your friend. You can look to me for advice, for training, for, I guess fashion tips, whatever you're looking for, I can offer it. What I will say though is that when you step in the ring with me, it is no longer friend zone. We are fighting. So prepare for the worst. Understand that it's not personal, but I do have ambition and drive and goals, and that includes taking over this company and being the champion. So I'm the gold standard. I'm the best in show. You know this. I'm the top dog in the ring. I carry the leash. I'm so sorry. It's how it is. I'm Goldie Collins.
Well, Goldie, if I can ask one more question, is it possible that we could see Alexander make an appearance this season? We did see him before, but is it possible that we would see that adorable dog again?
I think you might. He seems to, he comes to work every now and again, but he has his whole contract on his own. I let his people deal with David on that. I just become mom at that point. But he does seem to be itching to step out into the spotlight. So we'll see if we can get him out there.
Absolutely. Well, Goldie Collins, thank you so much for joining us on Steph and Kat Talk Wow. And if you don't mind just telling everybody where they can find and follow you on social media, you can do that now.
Of course, I'm Goldie Collins _wow on all social media platforms. And then check us out on your local stations on the weekend. Check out wowie.com for your listings.
Absolutely. And no, you can follow me, your girl Stephanie Hardy, on Instagram and Twitter at Queen Steph Hardy and on TikTok at Stephanie_Hardy4. And just continue to support the show, support women's wrestling, and support WOW.
Absolutely.
And you guys just follow me in Kat We Trust, the E's of three on every platform but Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. Otherwise, the three is the E's of three. But yes, Goldie, thank you so much for coming in and chatting with me and Stephanie. Like I said, you have definitely made me a fan as far as just watching you over the months. And wow. And again, I love you and Katarina together. So truly thank you for stopping by and chatting with us today.
Thank you for having
Absolutely.